Welcome to episode 19 of the Broadway Shuffle, a Texas Tech sports podcast with Conrad, Clayton, and Zyler. I am Brennan, and the Red Raiders are coming off the home loss to the Baylor Bears, but it is time to regroup and refocus as we shift our attention to the TCU Horned Frogs Saturday afternoon in Fort Worth at 2:30. Boys, tough loss at home against Baylor, but we have an opportunity to still go 4-1 in the Big 12 and regain potentially first place, but at least second or third in the conference after Saturday. So, Conrad, we start each episode with the Kool-Aid Factory, which is our hype meter essentially for the state of Texas Tech football. After Saturday afternoon, we had laid off a lot of employees. We had cut back 50%, but the flavor this week has got me excited, I must say. I think I'm buying back into the hype and believing in our boys come Saturday. So without further ado, Conrad, what is the flavor of the week, and how is the Texas Tech football Broadway Shuffle Kool-Aid Factory looking here on Thursday?
Yeah, so the Kool-Aid Factory is doing better than it was. We've hired a couple more staff back. We did have to lay off our grunt that we had hired, Dylan Burrow. Laid him off, hired him back. He's doing a great job making sure everything's clean, taken care of. And so we are announcing the Horned Frog Horchata. So this week, that's what we're going to be using. That's what we're going to be drinking. That's what we're going to be selling. We are selling it in limited quantities, though, because we still don't have our full staff back, because we're not really sure what the state of our team is right now. But come Saturday, that can all change. And it can change because we can do three things to make everything right. So we can have no special teams mistakes, which we all know that was not the case last week. We can have 0 turnovers. Again, we know that's not the case last week. And then we need to have 4 TFLs and sacks, some combination of that. You do those three things, the Kool-Aid Factory will be up and running, and the Horned Frog Horchata will be doing very well.
Clayton, what do you think of the Horned Frog Horchata?
Man, I definitely need some after last Saturday. It took a big hit to my willingness to invest in Kool-Aid. But I am interested to hear how you landed on the number 4 for the TFLs and sacks. Where'd that come from?
That was just an intuition I had. If we do that, I feel like things will be good.
It's a prophecy.
If you want to put it that way, I think if you do that, we can we may have some hope. Is my thought.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I don't know
know
if you have like
Conrad,
a stat
just off
to
the
go
top
with
of
that.
your head, do you know how many sacks we have on the year so far through 7 games?
It's probably, I know it's less than 4. I think
No,
maybe
it's
5.
6.
It's 6.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a
6.
combination, so not just sack. We don't need just 4 sacks. It could be 1 sack and 4 TFLs, or just 4 TFLs. I'm just saying you need that to make me feel good and to really spice up the Horned Frog Horchata.
Z, we're coming off the defect of the Mountain Berry Blast last week, where we had 0 sacks and tackle for losses. How confident are you feeling that we might be able to get 4 against TCU?
Yeah, when I think about that loss, I think I blame most of the blame. I thought it was at Conrad, but I actually blame most of it on Dylan. I think he had some sort of disease that may have gotten into the Kool-Aid. So I think he knows what he had, and we all know what he had, but we're not going to say anything about that.
Yeah.
HIPAA.
It's against HIPAA. Well, it's HIPAA violations. Yeah.
Prayers up for Dylan.
Prayers for Dylan.
Prayers up for Dylan. But yeah, I think, looking back on the loss, I've had time to digest it. I've let the berry blast digest in my stomach, and I still feel good about the direction of your program overall. I feel like fans have a tendency to take a loss and say your program is in bad shape. I don't necessarily know that is the case. I thought the loss was still a bad loss. I'm probably more pessimistic on this team moving forward than the general fan base, but probably way more optimistic about the program moving forward than most people are. So that's kind of where I'm at. You've definitely got some hurdles you've got to overcome to win this game. We'll get into the pressers and some of those items like that. But long term, I think we're trending in a good direction. I just think you do have some potentially big obstacles in front of you if you want to have a really good season this year.
For sure. Well, Conrad, that Horned Frog Horchata, where'd that name come from? I love that. That sounds, I mean, that name alone makes me want to redo my prediction for this weekend.
Yeah, so I'm in my second career, I'm a poet, and so I like to make things rhyme. And so I was just thinking about how we could engage the Red Raider public. I thought what could make it attractive, appealing, and my poetic self, I just decided it's got to be Horned Frog horchata. Make it sound good. Make it be something that is appealing to the general public.
Do you mean alliteration or do you mean rhyming?
Yeah.
Rhyming, alliteration. Yeah, I can go either way. So I mean, because no, I do mean alliteration.
Well, no worries, man. We'll move on from that.
Okay.
All right. Well, Conrad, before we get to the injury notes for this game coming up, you did take a little field trip this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, to Amon G. Carter Stadium there in Fort Worth. How did that go?
Yeah, so I work in the greater Fort Worth area, and I thought, well, I drive by this place all the time. Let me go check it out. I've been to a game there before, spent some time around that university, and I thought, well, let's go look and see what's going on, see if they maybe let the gate open, because we do know they like to keep us out of there. And so I walked up to the stadium and parked, and I looked up to the top of the away side, and I saw Raider Red up there. I didn't know what to. I was caught off guard, and Raider Red was just standing up there, looking at me, waving. It's like he found one of his own. And so as I started walking up, I just had to get a selfie with him and point to him. And so you can see that on one side of your screen, and then the other, I walked in the stadium, walked up to the second level, and just was taking a yonder at the stadium where we're going to win on Saturday, 31-28, as I already alluded to. And Raider Red was right there on the field. So, I mean, we're already in that stadium. Jeremiah Donati, you can't keep us out. We're going to be there on Saturday wearing red, and you can't even keep us out during the week either, because you don't lock your stadium. So, yeah, it was a fun field trip, and I got to see the sights and maybe hear some of the sounds of TCU before we take them down on Saturday afternoon.
That's great, man. Well, and I'm glad Raider Red got there early, prepared the field, everything, and that you were able to spend some quality time with them. That's important. So good for you, man. The pictures look great. Love the selfies and love the video as well with your prediction on the field. That was awesome. So, all right, well, let's get into it. Z, what do we need to know injury-wise heading into TCU?
Yeah, big notes for McGuire in his presser. I didn't think, substantively there was anything really scheme wise or anything that's worth noting. Injury wise, Porcher and McCray both questionable. It sounded like Porcher was going to play. If he doesn't, it's going to be Nick Fatigue or Fatig. I'm not quite sure how you say his last name, but I'd actually be really excited for him. He's a redshirt freshman. He's going to be a good player for you eventually. He's just still pretty young. He had a Michigan offer coming out of high school. I'd be very excited to see him play. McGuire said he had hernia surgery kind of at the beginning of the season, and that's why he hasn't been playing as much. Chapman Lewis has no injury designation, so you will have your starting free safety back. That's a really good thing. I did listen to the TCU presser as well. Dude, I'm so thankful for McGuire and the way that we do it. We get to hear from both coordinators. We get to hear from the head coach. It's like a 40-minute thing. The Dykes interview is like maybe 8 minutes. You get basically no information. Only thing he did say is Cooper McDonald, one of their starting defensive ends, is going to be out with a sprained ankle. He's got 2 sacks, 5 pressures, 16 tackles. Pretty good player. That's definitely noteworthy. He's not their best edge defender, not their most disruptive, but one of their top 3. I'll take any sort of edge that we can get in this game. Outside of that, most of their guys, except for maybe some ancillary 2 deep guys, are going to be, pretty healthy. They'll be pretty locked in and ready to roll. It's going to be a tough game. When I look at their defense, big and athletic defensive line, they've got the Tulane transfer, Devian Deal. He plays everywhere. They'll line him up inside, they'll line him up outside. Sometimes he plays as like a linebacker. You've got to watch out for him. He's going to be all over the field. We've got to have a plan to account for him on every single play when he's on the field. He's their most disruptive defender and somebody that can really blow up both our run game and our pass game. They did lose both of their starting corners before the season started to injury, and that's something I think we can exploit. Lamarian James is the guy that they'll play out. He's the better one of the two, but Jatravis Broughton is a guy that I think we can exploit. I think it's somebody, if we're in the passing game and we're in passing downs, we need to exploit him. We need to isolate him. I think you'll know pretty soon into the game which one he is, because we're going to be going at him, or I imagine Kitley's going to be going at him. They do penetrate in a lot of the run plays, but their run fits are kind of weird. Like they don't always align appropriately when they're their gap integrity is not very good. It's weird. You'll see guys get in the backfield, but it just kind of opens up a hole for the runner to go through. So that was kind of my notes from the Utah game. This is a good pass defense, 35.8% success rate defending the pass. That's really good. That's something that you haven't really seen a defense that's been that good against the pass. That's 17th in the country. So very, very solid there. Their rush defense is not very good, though. 40.8 success rate, and they're giving up more yards per rush than they are yards per drop back. So kind of a weird defense. They can't defend the run, but they're actually really good against the pass. It's been a really strange defense. I'm not quite sure what to think of it. I'm not really sure how you're going to exploit it, but those were kind of my thoughts on their defense and some of their pressers. Did you guys have any notes on the defensive side?
Clay?
Yeah, I rewatched the Utah game, but it's hard to take anything from that because Utah's QB play right now is atrocious. They can barely move the ball. But hopefully, hearing that, hopefully we can run on them. It'd be bad if we got down multiple scores in the second half and we're exclusively having to throw the ball. But I do think we can have some success running it. And we're going to have to put up some points with the injuries we have on the defensive line. I don't see us holding them to less than like 30. So we're going to have to figure out ways to scheme up some guys in the pass game and then run the ball, hopefully, and put up some points that way.
Yep.
Yeah, this defense has been wildly inconsistent. You give up 66 points to SMU, who is probably better than we all thought coming off the BYU game. They've won 5 in a row, so it's not like SMU is a bad football team, but still to lose 66-42, give up that many points. But then even though Utah's quarterback play, Clayton, to your point, is atrocious, to only give up a touchdown in a college football game is still pretty good as well. So I don't know which TCU is going to show up. That's kind of where this game is hard for me to predict, but I do think that you can exploit them. You just have to play smart football, utilize Taj as much as we kind of talk about, are we running Taj too much? Is it getting too, our team's figuring out kind of the RPO and the counter plays we run with Taj, but I do think that you can still pound the ground and find a way to win this game offensively. But Clay, I agree with you. You have to score more than 35, I think, to win this football game. So.
Yeah, Clay, that's a good point. Yeah, I was thinking about, when Barron's been bad, it's been when he's been having to press. And I know all quarterbacks are like that. When you're playing without a lead, you got to throw it more. You got to throw in more, not as advantaged downs and distances. But if we can just keep this close and rely on our running game, I think you do have a shot here. If you get down 10, 14, 17, something like that, I think it's going to be really hard for you to, 1, score enough to win, but then 2, get enough stops to where you can even get a lead. So it's a big game for your offense. They've got to, I think you're going to have to really, you have to do this every game. You have to outscore every team, but I don't think you're going to win a game 17-14 probably for the rest of the season. You're not going to see a game like the ASU game where you won 30-22. I'm going to think you're going to need 40 points to win a game from here on out. That's kind of my expectation. If we win a game, it's because we scored 40 plus.
You don't want to hear that, Conrad.
No, it's fair though, because we are 128th in the country in total defense, which again, that's kind of an interesting stat given the competition you played and things like that. But that just shows you that you're not really going to be able to stop that many people, but your offense is much better than that. And so it's just concerning because we don't know what team we're going to get. And like Zyler and Clayton alluded to, we're not a good enough team from top to bottom to get behind and come back. I just don't think that's not the way this team is built. That's not the way this team is going to win games. And so you're really going to have to score. But thankfully, knowing that they are bad against the rush gives me a hope, because you do have a great running back. And so if there's any time to use him 30 plus times this Saturday in a game, it's this week, because of how you match up against that defensive front and those linebackers.
They have some big guys on the inside. They've got a redshirt freshman named Marcus Deal that we're going to have to make sure that we account for. He's a huge player. He was a high 4-star, borderline 5-star coming out of high school. I think he could be a problem if you're rolling out, Davion Carter, who I imagine you're playing at right guard, who's 6 foot, and then maybe potentially a redshirt freshman at the left guard spot, and then Sheridan Wilson, a redshirt sophomore. I do worry about them potentially having a really big advantage on the interior, which, as we've seen, like Dante Corleone. I know we scored a ton of games in that sense, or scored a ton of points in that Cincinnati game, but you saw what a good interior guy does to our offense and just absolutely wrecks the interior. I didn't even blame Sheridan for that. Dante was just really, really good. That is something that I am concerned about, maybe more than what's being written about right now, is what they could potentially do to us on the inside.
Yeah, for sure. Z, what do we need to know offensively?
Yeah, so I guess I've soured a little bit on the TCU offense. I think it's not a paper tiger. Like, this is a good offense. I would never say that it's a bad offense. They're, on a total EPA perspective, from an offensive side, they're 18th in the country. That's really good. That's not adjusted for anything. That's just net. But they have been able to score. It's essentially just their passing game. Their EPA for rush is negative 0.11, which is good for 116th in the country. To put that in context, that's basically how bad your pass defense has been, which is 118th in the country. So they just haven't been able to run the ball. It was so bad that they were putting Savion Williams, kind of their freak receiver, in the Wildcat and kind of doing what we do with Jalen Conyers, but like not in like a fun, funky design way. It's just basically like, okay, snap the ball, run up the middle. Can we try to get 4 yards somehow? It's been very bad for them. They do have some dudes on the outside, though. Savion Williams, athletic freak, reminds me a lot of Quentin Johnston. I think he's better than Quentin. He just doesn't maybe get the hype and the notoriety just because that TCU team was undefeated when he kind of broke out. And then Jack Besh, he's very good. He's going to be the outside white receiver. I think he leads the Big 12 in yards. Very good player. Your cornerbacks are going to need to have a good game. And then we've said it every week, the defensive line has not stepped up really yet, outside of maybe that Arizona game. They've got to have a big game. Duda Banks is out for the year. That was announced in the presser. I think we all kind of knew that was what was going to happen. So you've really got 4 guys that you feel comfortable with at your defensive tackle spots. And then you've got all of those babies on the edge, Amir Washington, Harvey Dyson, your third string tight end. Those guys have got to find a way to get after the quarterback and pressure Hoover. I think Hoover's good. I think maybe his stats are a little bit inflated. I don't want to say that he's a bad quarterback. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But if you can get him into situations where he feels pressure and he has to make a decision, he'll make some bad decisions. He reminds me a lot of Sam Levitt. If Sam Levitt had like 2 or 3 more years of experience and like matured a lot, he'll still make some bad throws and he's going to fire some darts. But if you can force him into enough of those situations, he'll give you the ball. You just got to find a way to get pressure, and you are not able to do that against Baylor, not even a little bit. I think this line is probably about the same as Baylor, maybe a little bit worse. They lost the guy to season-ending injury before the year started. But I don't feel good about our line being able to get home with a 3 or a 4-man rush. That just doesn't seem like something we've been able to do all year, and I don't think you're going to figure that out against this offensive line.
Yeah, and to your point, Hoover has thrown 6 interceptions this season, but in 3 games. So he's thrown multiple interceptions in 3 games. 2 of those have been losses. So Clayton, how would you like to see Texas Tech minimize the passing game? Do you want to see more of an Arizona game plan, or are you expecting a 3-man front like we saw against Baylor?
I hope we don't see a 3-man front like we saw against Baylor, because that definitely did not work last week. But yeah, no, I honestly, if DeRuyter runs the exact same defense this week, I think that's a huge mistake. I mean, Baylor shredded us from like the second quarter to the end of the game. I think you have to bring an extra man, bring blitzes. I think we would all feel better about our secondary right now, especially with Chapman playing, than we do on our defensive line. So I think you have to bring extra guys and just hope that the secondary holds up. But I mean, Zyler's right. Hoover will definitely, similar to what we said about Sawyer Robertson, even though it did not come to fruition, like he'll throw some 50-50 balls, he'll turn it over. But I don't think we can just let him sit back in the pocket, because that's not going to happen if we're doing that.
Yeah, I do think he's one of the better quarterbacks you have faced up to this point this season. And I would put him kind of in that top 6 or 7 range in the Big 12, in my opinion. So he's not a bad quarterback by any means, and they do throw the ball a lot. So he will shred you if you allow him time to throw.
Yeah, I'd like to see just there's something that you could bank on, maybe not, winning you the game, but definitely disrupting the game is pressuring the quarterback, because if you can't get home with 3, 4, which we all know the answer to that by now, I'm totally fine sending more guys than they can block every single time and blitzing them, because that way you'll stuff the run that way, because you'll have more guys than they can block, at least you would think, and you'll get home to Hoover quicker than you would obviously if you had 3 people. It's just simple, math. But I think I'd like to see that, because I don't know that we've seen that the way we wish we would have, knowing the weaknesses of our defense. So if you do that, I think that could play a huge factor in the game, because like you said, he will throw balls to you, and what better way to disrupt an offense than to give them pressure. So I'd like to see that, but then again, I don't coach for Texas Tech. I just have a podcast. So
John Carlos Miller, we're talking to you, man. Get after him this weekend, my guy. Change his number 3 times this year so he can play defense. I mean, the guy, he's a team player. He's the next Tyree Wilson. I can feel it.
There you go.
Tyree, now that I talked about, when we played TCU 2 years ago and they went to the national title game, Tyree Wilson was a havoc in Fort Worth.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he single-handedly kept us in that game. It was like wild to watch how good of defensive effort we put forth. Obviously, we don't have a guy like him on our defense this year, but maybe John Carlos can find a way to do that this weekend. But if not, man, you got to find a way to be opportunistic on the defensive end. I think we've talked about that all year with this team. They have created turnovers. TCU turns the ball over a lot. Outside of the interceptions, they do have a lot of fumbles as well. Their ratio is horrible. So this team will give you the football and give you opportunities to get the football. And we just have to find a way to do that, I think, if we're going to win this game.
Zyler, what would you like to see defensively from a game plan perspective?
Dude, I'm not good enough to tell you what you should be doing. I do think you need to be stunting, though, on a lot of their guards. I don't like their guards. I don't think they're particularly good. They're big, which has kind of proven to be a problem for us. We're obviously, and most guys are better against smaller guards, but I think you've got to give some complex stuff and at least throw Hoover off. If you're not going to actually get home, make him think that you're going to get home or that something's coming and he gets the ball out quicker. The other underrated aspect is we thought Baylor couldn't run the ball, and they ran for like 280 yards against us. You actually do have to make sure that you can stop their running game. If they're able to come out and gash you 6 yards of play on first down, 7 yards of play on first, that pretty consistently, this ball game's over. If you can't stop the run and you're having to load up the box, they're going to kill you in the passing game. So I just assume that we're going to be able to stop the run, because for most of the season we have been able to. And I think we will be able to, but that's another thing that I'm at least keeping my eye on is, are we actually stuffing a lot of their runs for 1, 2, 3 yards? Things like that where it's like, that's kind of an unsuccessful play. Other piece, like Clayton said, I'm going to be okay with, on 3rd and 7, we send 7 guys, everybody's in man. If they burn you over the top, they burn you over the top. And I think you just live with it. Because, sending 5 and them gashing you for 15 yards and then them just doing that all the way down the field, it's like, that's just kind of a death by 1,000 cuts. I'll be fine with them taking some risks. And if they don't work, it doesn't work. But I will at least like to see that swing. It's a high stakes game. If he throws it up on the outside and Lux or Horn is out of position, like, it's going to be a touchdown, especially with some of the guys that they've got. So I really do think it needs to be a big game from your cornerbacks, because I imagine we are going to be bringing pressure quite a bit. Another note, I wanted to talk to you guys about this. I listened to a guy on Red Raider Sports today, and he was talking about the star position. And ever since Muddy Waters left in 2022, I feel like we just really haven't had somebody play that position the way it's designed to be played. I don't know if y'all remember Muddy. He was so disruptive in any sort of run plays, was always in the backfield, and in any sort of outside pass plays that were, screens, short routes. That dude blew up everything. I feel like we haven't had a guy that does that in a while. And I know that 2022 defense wasn't anything super special, but I feel like a player of that nature would really help your team a lot just in run fits. AJ McCarty's fine. Brendan Jordan's fine. They just are not at that Muddy Waters level. And I think this defense really needs somebody like that. And that's an underrated piece that I don't think I have even talked about this year, that I do think you're missing a little bit with this team.
Yeah. And did Rabbit kind of play that role last year?
No, he played the free safety role. So last year, Baskerville started there at the star, and then they spun down BJ to play there, and they kind of rotated guys at the star. But Baskerville was better in the back, so they moved him back there. But they wanted him to play that star role. It just wasn't necessarily a fit.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, Z, let's move to our keys to the game for a Red Raider win. What are your keys to the game, and how do you see us coming out of Fort Worth 6-2?
Yeah, so I was doing some defensive introspection, kind of trying to see where we are. You currently ranked 86th in SP plus as a defense. That's accounting for all sorts of things. It's kind of the gold standard for advanced analytics. That is the worst in the Big 12, and you're better than only 3 Power 5 teams. That's Stanford, Mississippi State, and Purdue. Those teams are a combined 4-17 on the season. You were the real outlier there at 5-2. And I don't think our offense is getting enough credit. You're playing like a top 25 unit right now. You're 26th in this same metric. Kitley is not getting the praise and the credit that he deserves for winning a lot of these games for us. The offense is completely carrying the load for this team right now. And the way people talk about our team, you'd think that Kitley was, really, really underperforming. And he doesn't bat 1,000. No coordinator ever does. He has play calls that really bother me. But that's football. You can't call the good play every single time. I think the offense has to have a monster game. Barron has not been very good on the road yet this season, even the win at Arizona. I think he has to be good to great. He doesn't have to win the game because I don't know that that's necessarily in his wheelhouse, but can he throw 250 and 2? I think if you gave me that stat line right now with no interceptions, I think I'd take it and I'd feel pretty good about where we are as a team. We talked about it ad nauseum. You've got to find a way to pressure Hoover. If you live with it if he beats you with the blitz, that's fine. Make him prove that he can do that. And then you need to be just really, really clean. The special teams have got to be good. I think you've got to win the turnover battle by at least 1, if not 2. This is a good team. They're not going to just spot you a bunch of, stupid. They're not going to muff a kickoff and let you run it back into the end zone like we did last week. So those are kind of my keys. I think you got a really tough game ahead of you. It's definitely winnable, but kind of a tough hill to climb here.
Yeah, Clayton, I know you probably share a lot of the same thoughts, but any keys to the game specifically for you?
Yeah, a couple of mine are pretty much the same as Zyler, but I will echo what he said about the pressure on Hoover. I think it's rare for a college QB to be able to just like torch you if he's consistently under pressure. So you've got to be able to find a way to do that. Zyler also hit on the turnovers. TCU's, that's how they lose games, honestly, is they'll turn it over multiple times. Last week against Utah, they had some stupid turnovers. They got a field goal blocked. So I think you have to force at least 1, probably 2, to win the game. You got to win the field goal position battle. Last week, we did a terrible job of that, and I don't think people really think of that. But if you're starting every single drive from inside your 25 and they're starting it, at the 35 or 40 yard line, like odds are they're probably going to win the game. So I'd like to, see us, obviously the special teams mistakes have to be cut, but then also just limiting 3 and outs, even if you pick up 2 first downs before the drive stalls, like that's much, much better than just 3 plays and then punting.
Yeah. Kool-Aid man.
Yeah. I don't know if I like that title right now. Maybe next week. My biggest thing, I mentioned it in the beginning, is you just cannot have you can't shoot yourself in the foot, whether it be on special teams or on offense with turnovers. Just do the simple things right. I think this league is so close together in a lot of ways in terms of talent level, in terms of you just don't see many teams that feel like they've separated themselves outside of maybe a couple. And so if you just don't turn the ball over, if you just catch kickoffs, if you just make the smart decisions there, that's going to play a large factor in whether or not you're actually in this game, because there is a world in which you just come out of the gate slow and you're out of it quickly. And so not making dumb mistakes, I think, is my first key. My second is, which goes along with that, is no turnovers. Again, I think we say that every week, but if you just don't turn the ball over, you're probably going to be in the game. Last week you turned the ball over a few times, and if you just don't do that last week, I think you see a different game at maybe not entirely, but pretty much you'll see maybe some different swings there. And then I think we'd all like to see Barron play better on the road, but I think he can do it. He's shown us he can do it before in 2022 against Oklahoma State. So I think if he does that, doesn't turn the ball over, and if we got the stat line that Zyler mentioned, 250 and 2, I definitely think that means that you've got a really good chance to win this game.
Yeah, those are all great points. For me, I mentioned this earlier, but this team has just been so inconsistent. You lose 30-19 against Houston at home with 4 turnovers. You drop, or you give up 66 points against SMU. It's like, which TCU is going to show up? Like, if they come out and play well, they're the team that has beaten Utah. They're a team that, should have beat UCF. They also let UCF come back late at home as well. That was another one of their losses where they had multiple turnovers. So it's hard because I know this team is talented, but they haven't put together 4 quarters, much like you haven't really. A lot of these times, even the Arizona game, you could have given that game away. Cincy as well, so we've happened to be on the winning side of some of our games where we haven't played our best or haven't put together a complete football game, I guess. And so you need that. You need to do the little things this weekend in Fort Worth to win this football game. Like Clayton mentioned, special teams cannot be a reason you lose. Turnovers cannot be a reason you lose. If they just go out and beat you because they beat you, but you take care of it, I'll feel a lot better about going into Oklahoma State, Colorado, some of these games that I think might be more winnable. But I'm still hopeful. I mean, this is what the Big 12 is this year. I wouldn't be shocked if we won by 3 touchdowns just because TCU played bad. I mean, and we went in there and stomped them. So I don't really know what to do and how to feel about this team. I just know that you cannot come out how you played against Baylor and expect to win on the road. So just from a playing hard and playing physical standpoint, I would love to see us come out and do that. And I think you have a good shot if you do. But that's why you play the game, man. Only one way to find out. You gotta go out there and do it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Brennan, you bring up some great points. This is a team that lost to Houston at home, on Friday night 3 weeks ago. Like, that is an awful result. Like, maybe the worst result in the Big 12 so far outside of, UCF getting killed by Colorado at home. If that team shows up, I think you can win by 2 or 3 touchdowns. Like you said, they've got weaknesses. You have yet to outgain a team in Big 12 play as far as total yards. I know that doesn't mean a ton, but you're 3-1 and you have lost the yardage battle in every single game that you've played. I'd love to see us go out on the road and absolutely crush a team. That would be so good for my soul. I don't know that that's necessarily what's going to happen, but this is not some sort of behemoth monster that's like, we can beat this team on the road. Iowa State next week, I don't know about that. I think this game is really big for your program. Just looking at what you have coming up in the next couple of weeks, I don't think you match up well with Iowa State at all. Like that does not look like a matchup that I'm comfortable with. Colorado does everything well that you do poorly. That's another game that I'm like really worried about. This is a huge game. You don't want to go on a 4-game losing streak in the Big 12. I think winning here would be huge. I wonder if we see McGuire kind of go back to some of his 2022 and 2023 fourth down tendencies. I wonder if he tries to pull out all the stops here. He sounded a little bit desperate in the presser. I wonder if we see some more of that. I don't know how you guys would feel about that, but the way that the defense has kind of crumbled a little bit, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to seeing us go for a lot more 4th and 3s, 4th and 4s. Maybe if we're passing around 40, it's still risky, but man, maybe we do need to pull out all the stops here.
Yeah, I mentioned this with the Arizona game when he punted. He kind of felt out the defense that game. The defense played really well. And so you felt confident you could get a stop that game based off your scheme and how Arizona's offense was. It does seem, to your point earlier in the episode, like you have to score 40 to win. And so if you have the ball on offense and it's 4th and 4, do you trust your offense to get 5 yards or do you trust your defense to get a stop? That's kind of the place we're in. So I agree with you. I think that as long as you're on the 45 or closer, like if you're inching towards your side of the field, I'm okay with it. Anything beyond the 45, I still think you punt and take the chance. But 4th and 4 or in, I do think you probably need to be a lot more aggressive because you just got to find a way to keep your defense off the field and maintain the possession as long as possible.
Yeah, that's a great point too. If the game's 10-7 by some miraculous reason in the 4th quarter, defense is playing well, I hope you punt. I don't necessarily see the game script playing like that, but that is a good point for you to call out. Like, kind of feel the game out, see where things are going.
Because I don't think he did that early, like 2022, 2023. He just felt like 4th and 6, go for it. Where that was the first time we've seen him not really use analytics and be like, no, let's punt. And so it was interesting to me to see that. I would be curious to see if he goes back to his that aggressive nature for this game, and you might have to. So, Conrad, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd like to see it, to be honest, because if you can take control of this game early, they're not going to have a crowd there that has any veracity at all because they just don't fill their stadium. So at least I hope they wouldn't. And so if you can just take control of this game early, maybe convert a couple 4th downs early and maybe take them and score touchdowns, I'd feel really good about what that could do for the rest of the game. So I'd like that personally, but We'll have to see what happens because I could see it going the other way, but I do trust your offense a whole lot more than your defense in this game.
Yep. All right, Clayton, it's prediction time. After all that, we've dissected it. We've gone through it. TCU's inconsistent. Texas Tech has struggled. The passing attack, blah, 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 blah. What's the score?
Yeah, so I can't pick us to win on the road because after what we saw last week.
I knew it, man. I knew it.
I wish I could, man. But after what we've seen from this team on the road and specifically last week, and I don't see how you can consistently get pressure on Hoover or any quarterback for the rest of the year with the injuries that we have. So unfortunately, I'm taking TCU 41-30, but with the caveat that if they go out and turn it over 3 times, I think you win by 10 plus.
We'll give you the caveat.
Nice.
Zyler?
Dude, I'm back and forth now. I had my prediction written down. I've been wrong so many times, so maybe I need to like reverse jinx here. I do think your defense. I don't mean to be a pessimist. I don't think this is as low as your defense can go. I think we've got plenty of room to regress. It's just such a bad situation from the injury standpoint and the experience standpoint. You just have the guys that have played aren't very good, and the guys that haven't played are all babies. I think that could be a really big problem. It was a big problem in the Baylor game. It's been a big problem in all your other games. This is a team that wants to throw the ball a ton. I don't want to count out DeRuiter. He's great at pulling out some crap that totally confuses a team. I don't respect Kendall Briles as an offensive coordinator. I don't respect Sonny Dykes as a head coach. However, I do think we lose this game, and I'm going to go TCU 45, Texas Tech 31. I think we probably turn the ball over one too many times and get stuffed on a 4th down, and they pull away late. I do think you'll be competitive. It's hard for me to envision more times than not us winning this game.
Yeah, and for our listeners, Zyler, I think, has picked Texas Tech in a football game twice this year. So
I picked us to beat ACU
3 times.
And 3 times.
And North Texas.
Okay. And Baylor, right? You picked us to beat Baylor.
And Baylor.
Yeah.
I picked us to beat Baylor.
Okay, so 3 times. So you've picked us to lose games we've won. So remain hopeful if you're listening to the show. Doesn't mean Zyler's always right. Conrad, prediction.
I said it earlier. I said it on a video that was posted on our social medias earlier this week, and I wish I wouldn't have locked myself into this prediction, but I'm a man of my word, and so I'll pick us to win 31-28 very hesitantly. If I wouldn't have recorded that video, I would probably say something different, but I'm going to stick to what I said. I'm hopeful that you can do something in Fort Worth. I'm very hopeful that the crowd is a lot of Red Raiders. I think that would just mean so much to your team, to your program. And if that's the case, and we can actually have a presence in that stadium, which I think we can, that may play a large effect on the game. But all of the pessimism that I hear coming out of Zyler's mouth and Clayton and Brennan, I do have to agree with, but I'm just going to choose to believe, man. You never know what can happen on the Big 12 on the road. So we'll see what happens.
I just want to say, I feel like I'm more pessimistic on this team. Your season is not over if you lose this game. I know I'm sure we'll hear from some Tech Twitter personalities that will say this is the most embarrassing loss of the season, of McGuire's career. Season's over. Your season is not over. Do you have a rough stretch of upcoming games? Yes. Are you super injured? Yes. Is your defense not very good? Yes. Doesn't mean the season's over. You found a way to win games with these guys earlier. West Virginia looks bad. Oklahoma State looks bad. You can beat Colorado. Iowa State's not invincible. The program's on an upward trajectory. This just may be a tough couple weeks for you.
Z, you didn't even get through that, man. You're starting to laugh it's like, are they bad? Yes. Are they bad? Yes. Are they bad? Yes. We're going 5-7. You're like trying to say, I'm not trying to be pessimistic here, but like nothing sounds good.
And isn't it crazy how quickly things can shift? Because before the Baylor game, we were like, if you win this game, we were talking about Arlington. Some of that was clickbait, of course. As media members, we have to do what we have to do. But at the same time, it just it switches so quickly, and that's part of the fun of it. That's also part of the horrors of it, I guess. And Zyler, I just have a quick question: who are the tech Twitter personalities that you're talking about? Maybe saying it's the worst loss of the season. Do you have any names for us? I don't really frequent Twitter that much, so
I don't know.
Yeah, member of the mainstream media, I never dox my sources, and I'm going to stay true to that. I've just recently entered into this esteemed echelon of mainstream media status, and I'm not about to give it up now.
Yeah, you don't want the scandals yet. See, we got to continue the rise first. This is why
we'll do that in the off season.
Yes, yeah.
Wait
till June. Man, this is why I love my role in this show, because I get to listen to all of you guys and your incredible knowledge on the teams and what you need to do and the keys to the game. And then I get to make my prediction last. And so, man, I think back to Texas Tech versus TCU in Fort Worth. I think of the Seth Dagey game, back in the day. I think of the Jet Duffy game when we found a way to win on a Thursday. I think of Pat and the games. And there's some memorable games we've had in Fort Worth that we've won. I also think of the 82-27 game. And unfortunately, I think that one I'm leaning more towards than the other three this Saturday. I'm not saying you're giving up 82 points. I just don't think you're going to win this game. And unfortunately, it sucks for us because if we don't win this game, you kind of, not that your season's over, Z, to your point, but you do pretty much lose a chance of competing for the Big 12 title, where just 2 weeks ago, we were like, if we beat Baylor, Conrad, we'll be 4-0. And you really need this game. If you win this game, you're 6-2 and 4-1 in conference for the first time in 11 years. So it would be awesome to find a way to do that. I just don't think you've got enough. Like, I was talking to a friend earlier today about this, and it's like, you can have the best scheme, you can have the best game plan, and you can play hard. But if you don't have the dudes, you don't have the dudes. And unfortunately, right now, I just don't think we have the dudes to go compete and win a bunch of football games because they're young. I mean, it's not a knock on them. You just do not have the talent to go compete for a championship. It looks like right now you're too beat up and you're too young. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope these guys come out against Arizona. I wasn't expecting the performance they gave, and I hope we see that again. But sometimes it's just the reality. And if you do win this game, I think your season is a success if you just win one more game after that. Like, if this team went 7-5 and plus 500 in the Big 12 for a third straight season, I know we all want more. That's a win. Like, if you win this game and then go find a way to beat Colorado or West Virginia, and we're talking in December, I'm happy. So we'll see what happens. But score-wise, I've got TCU 48, Texas Tech 24.
Holy wow!
That is going to be a sad Saturday.
What's
I'll be drinking lots of horchata.
24.
What's
the reason for the 24?
I do not think the offense, unfortunately, has shown the ability to play well on the road. And I mean, and that's what concerns me. And I'm not being pessimistic, and I hope I'm wrong. I just think the reality is, if you look at the defense and where they are with the injuries and the experience, and then you look at how the offense has performed on the road, awful against Washington State, pretty much went ghost mode for 3 quarters against Arizona. There's really nothing that has shown me this team can go put up 35, 40 points on the road and win a football game. And until they do that, I can't realistically say it's going to happen. So I think
need some more Kool-Aid.
Dude, Clayton and I will be watching the game at a tailgate on Saturday. Conrad, ship it to the house Friday night. We'll chug it, and I hope I'm wrong, and I'll be so delusional from some horchata that I'll forget what my prediction was. But
I'll just say I'm pretty disappointed in both of you. The fact that you're going to be within 50 miles of Amon G. Carter Stadium and you're not going to be there. I'm pretty disappointed. But what can I say? Y'all picked us to lose. So
we've got our political correspondent there. You're there. Only one of us needs to be there. We've got you. We'll watch it from afar and we'll celebrate in spirit if we win. And we'll see what happens, man. And again, if you're listening this far in, I hope we're all wrong. But
except for me,
except you, Conrad. Yeah. It's going to be tough. But yeah, I see a blowout. Maybe I'm just depressed after the Baylor game, but I see a blowout. So
yeah. That would not shock me at all.
It wouldn't. But hey, I'll say this. It would not shock me if you flipped it. Like if we went in and just turned it, like that's what's crazy
This
about
team
the
lost to Houston.
Yeah,
they lost to
exactly.
Houston.
And they gave up 66 against SMU. So you just do not know in the Big 12 every week, and that's fine. And so I wouldn't be shocked to see us go in there and blow them out either. It could flip 50-50. I just don't see it being close. I think there's too much volatility almost for it's like one team's going to dominate or the other team's going to dominate. I don't see it like both teams struggling. I hope I'm wrong.
The only guarantee is that one fan base is going to leave this game incredibly pissed off. Incredibly mad.
And I hope it's not us for Conrad's sake, having to be there after a video on the field on a Tuesday afternoon. I mean, Conrad's mental health to lose to Baylor and then TCU back-to-back weeks would not be good for this show.
I probably won't be on the show on Monday morning if that does take place. I'll just need some time to myself. Maybe a darkness retreat like Aaron Rodgers likes to champion. I don't know. Maybe that's what I'll need. I just hope that's not
your darkness
something
retreat
I
is going to be in the Tarrant County courthouse jail when you get arrested.
Why would I get arrested?
For spewing slurs at the TCU fans as you're getting dragged out of the game.
I don't think that's in my character or wheelhouse, but I hope I don't have to go there. I can do the show from there though. I just need my phone.
Dude, how legit would that be?
Oh man.
Yeah. Scotty Scheffler 2.0.
Do it from the worst chimneys in Texas, the Fort Worth chimneys. Do it there too.
Wait, have you been to?
I've actually never been.
Chimneys
I know.
Besides Lubbock before.
Taking random shots.
I'm just taking shots at him. I've never been, dude. There's only one chimneys that matters. It's on Broadway.
That's very true.
I don't need to go to the Fort Worth one to know that. So, all right. Well, let's move to Big 12 rankings, our power rankings for this week. Like we talked about just a minute ago, lots of volatility in the Big 12. You could put almost any team anywhere, maybe outside of the top two. So, Clayton, I'll have you go first, man. What are your power rankings heading into this weekend?
Yeah, I've got Iowa State up at 1. I feel like they definitely look like the best team in the conference right now. K-State at 2. I also have them passing BYU. I had BYU drop to 3. They really struggle with Oklahoma State, but they are undefeated, so I could not drop them any further than 3. I've got Colorado 4, Cincinnati 5. Right here is where I feel like there's definitely like a tier where all these teams could beat any other of the teams in this tier. I got Baylor at, what is that, 6?
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
4. No, wait, Baylor at 7. Texas Tech at 8. UCF at 9. Arizona State at 10. West Virginia 11. Kansas 12. They're up from the cellar for now. Oklahoma State 13. Utah 14. Arizona 15. Houston 16.
Nice.
So you have Cincy ahead of us.
I do. I have some head-to-head matchups that are out of order at this point in the season.
Yeah, it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
Z?
Yeah, I've got Iowa State up at the top with Kansas State. I think those are, in my mind, the two best teams. I actually have Colorado number 3. I think that team is legitimately good. They have a really good offense, and that defense is significantly improved from last year. I've got BYU at 4, and once again, that's kind of my break. I have Cincinnati at 5. They've been relatively healthy. That offense is pretty decent. Their schedule is going to be really tough, so I imagine they get knocked down a little bit from here. And then I've got TCU at 6, Baylor at 7, Texas Tech is 8. I have you ahead of Oklahoma State and West Virginia. West Virginia especially, that team may fall a lot. Oklahoma State's got a ton of injuries. They're actually more injured than you are right now. Not as many of those guys are season ending, so I'm sure they all come back after the bye week to play against you. But then I've got Arizona State at 11, UCF at 12, Utah at 13, Kansas at 14, Arizona at 15, and Houston at 16. Oddly enough, UCF is favored at home against BYU by almost 2 points now. That line's moved almost 5 points since that opened. Interesting matchup that BYU will need to win if they want to remain in conference contention. So those are my power rankings.
God, it's crazy hearing this. Utah 13, UCF 15. UCF almost beats Iowa State on the road. That's probably why they're favored against BYU. And they have some dogs, dude. They have a lot of athletes. Like that team is not
their defensive line. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're so athletic. They're like the Florida TCU. Like the idea of them is way better than the actual team itself, but they have the pieces to be good.
Yeah, they really do. And so I would not be shocked to see them beat BYU, and I hope they do. Conrad.
Yeah, just like Clayton and Zyler, I have Iowa State and Kansas State at 1 and 2. Then I have BYU at 3, Colorado at 4, Cincinnati at 5, Arizona State at 6. I'm a little higher on UCF, I guess, at 7. Kansas also at 8. Then I've got TCU at 9, Texas Tech at 10. Baylor, I'm just not going to put them above Tech, even though they beat us. West Virginia at 12. Then I have my beloved Utes at 13, Arizona at 14, Oklahoma State at 15, and then Houston at 16.
I can't believe that you have Kansas above Tech. I know we got blown out, but Kansas has beaten one team in conference, and it's Houston.
Yeah, yeah, that's yeah.
Well, although we are all big Kansas fans from here on out, they need to beat a ton of teams for us.
Yes, yeah. There's some reasons. I mean, I feel like Kansas is, maybe that's just how I feel about us more than Kansas, but I don't know. That's neither here nor there.
God, we're exemplifying what it means to be a Tech fan on the show tonight. Conrad's got us. He's got us winning 31-28 in Fort Worth, but then Kansas is right in his power rankings. I've got blown out against TCU, but still feel hopeful if we win. And it's just, the bipolar Red Raiders syndrome is real tonight on this show. So,
dude. And if you're not watching, shout out to Aaron Johnson for making all these graphics. That dude has crushed it. I don't know how he does it, and he does it so quickly. We send him the dumbest imaginable requests. Like, there was one, we were like, can we have Raider Red shooting the Horned Frog? He's like, yeah, do you want this? And it was like 5 minutes, and he made it. He's done an awesome job. So shout out to Aaron. And if you're not watching, it's definitely worth it to see it on YouTube. They're top notch. They look really professional.
Yeah. And definitely we encourage everyone to go to our YouTube channel and watch us. It's a lot of fun to watch on the Broadway Shuffle, a Texas Tech sports podcast, but we enjoy wherever you listen to your podcast as well, and hope you can actually watch us on Spotify as well too. So if you enjoy watching podcasts on Spotify, you can watch it there too. So okay, well, that was great, guys. Let's get to some of these key games. We mentioned Kansas. I might as well start there. They play at Kansas State. What do we like? Chances of Kansas beating the Wildcats on the road? Clayton?
I think they have a very small chance of beating Kansas State. I think if it was at home in Arrowhead Stadium, maybe they would have a shot. But playing on the road at Kansas State, I think they're going to get beat by 2+ touchdowns.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, my Avery Johnson is a glorified white running back take is not aging very well into the season. He's definitely improving. So don't find those clips. Yeah, I think Kansas State rolls here. That Kansas defense is not up to snuff yet, but they are better than your defense. So I won't throw too many shots.
Yep. Conrad?
Yeah, I'll take in that game. I'll take BYU over UCF.
Okay. Well, wait, Kansas or Kansas? you jumped
sorry.
the game.
I thought you were talking about. Sorry,
Kansas
or
Kansas State.
I'll take Kansas State by 2, maybe 3 scores.
Okay, that's fine. You were looking at my next game. You got the show notes ready to go. BYU BYU.
You put BYU first.
I did, but I jumped it. That's on me. That's on me. I'll take the blame. I
could have listened.
I'll take the blame. Okay, BYU at UCF. Wow, we're getting. We need to end the show here soon. Okay, BYU at UCF. Conrad, who do you got in that game?
Obviously,
he's got Kansas State.
Mormons.
He's got Kansas.
Taking the Storm and Mormons. So,
Kansas State against UCF. Okay, Conrad. The Storm and Mormons. Come on. All right, yeah. Z, what about you?
I'll take UCF. I think they showed a lot against Iowa State when they played. They should have won the game. I think it's still a decent team. I need them to beat some teams before I move them up a little bit in my ratings, but I do believe in the athletes. I think they can play with UCF, and I think they can slow them down defensively. It's that quarterback's going to have to play well, whoever they trot out there. It's been kind of a rotating cast of characters, but I'll take UCF.
Yeah. Okay. Clay?
I'm going to take UCF as well. I feel like this is a game I've been flip-flopping on, but I think that BYU is like a worse version of 2022 TCU, where they just kind of, I'm not to take anything away from their season, but they did get really lucky last week, and I think that luck may run out this week against UCF. I think UCF's just more athletic, faster, so I think they pull out the win.
Yeah, I've got UCF too. I think the BYU is going to struggle here on the road on Saturday. So we'll see what happens. All right, Conrad, I'm going to Cincy at Colorado next, just in case you need to know.
He's got Kansas.
I'm gonna take I'm gonna take Colorado here. I think them.
Nice.
I think they're playing well right now. I like Shadur. I think he's a fantastic quarterback, just like we all do. So I think he's gonna play well, and that they'll win this game. That would be. I don't know that Brendan Sorsby and that Cincinnati offense is really gonna be able to keep up with them, but you never know what can happen. But I'll pick the Buffaloes.
Z?
Yeah, I'll take the Buffaloes here too. I think that was kind of exactly what I would have said, they're going to rock Cincinnati. That's what I think.
We can't release this episode, man. I'll take Colorado as well in a high-scoring game. I think both teams score close to 40, if not both over 40. But I think Colorado's offense is just too good.
Yeah, hey, at least we don't take ourselves too seriously here on the Broadway Shuffle.
Not at all.
Not at all. I am going to go Colorado here, dude. I am praying. Like, I don't know if the football gods will give us this, but if we could somehow win against TCU and Iowa State, and then Colorado could also be going in, I think there's a 50% chance game day would be in Lubbock in 2.5 weeks, just because of the Dion Love from ESPN. And if they're like 7-2, I think they would do it. So the odds of that happening are probably less than 1%. But if it does, who do they play next week? I don't know.
Who does Colorado play? They have a bye.
Yeah,
they have a bye.
Oh,
okay.
Great.
So if they win,
Iowa State. Yeah, Iowa State gets a bye before they play us. So does Colorado. So does Oklahoma State.
Not good. Nah, that doesn't sound good. Okay. Well, anyways,
Or they could come out looking like us after we had a bye. You never know.
That's true. That's fair. I would love to see Colorado win, is my point, and for that game to be just a hype show. It would be awesome. We'll all be at that game too, so it'd be great.
Well, it'd be really fun before it started. Once it starts, I'm not sure how fun it'd be, but the lead up to it would be exciting.
Yes, we are. I'm really starting to wonder if we're going 5-7 this year. It's like the more
no. We're gonna win.
The more
we're gonna beat West Virginia, Oklahoma State.
The more we talk, the more nervous I'm getting. Okay. OSU at Baylor. I put this one on here just because, you got smoked by Baylor, and it's Alan Bowman, so we've got to put him here. What do we think about this game? Does OSU find a way to win a Big 12 game?
No.
Baylor rolls. OSU is way too injured. They're missing like all their best defensive players. Ollie Gordon's questionable. Alan Bowman's back. Both Garrett Rangel and Zane Flores are out for the year. So we will get to play Bowman this year,
unless he gets hurt.
Oof.
Yeah, we were nervous about having to play Bowman, or not getting to play Bowman, and then Rangel broke his shoulder. So here we go.
Yep.
We're back. Bowman's back, man. The redemption game for Bowman's back, and we get an opportunity. So we'll see what happens. Well, it'll be a big week. That game, for Oklahoma State, I hope they keep losing and just shut it down by the time we get to Stillwater, and we can just get a thank you
easy
win.
Dub.
Yeah, an easy dub. But the Cincy Colorado game, just to go back real quick, in terms of what it means for you, if Colorado wins and Cincy gets 2 losses and you do win, it's just another team that you kind of eliminate. You just increase your odds the more these teams find a way to lose. And that's why you need UCF to win. Clayton, as much as you don't want this to happen, you need Kansas to find a way to win against Kansas State. Then you've got to find a way to win. So we'll see what happens. But we believe. I know I picked Tech to lose by 3 touchdowns, but I still believe. So
we believe.
Yeah. All right, Z, we finish every episode here with a trivia question from you. What do you got tonight?
Yep, it's a quick one. I talked about the offense and how good it's been this year. It really does deserve more credit and praise than it's gotten this year from the fan base. But receiving yards, always been a hot topic. Do you know who the 4th leading receiver for Texas Tech is this year? It's obviously not Josh Kelly, and it's obviously not Caleb Douglas. There's kind of 4 or 5 guys contending for that role. Do you have any idea who our 4th leading receiver is?
I'm going to guess the infamous Dre McCray.
That's a pretty good guess.
Dude, I actually think it might be Micah Hudson.
That's also a pretty good guess.
I know he has more yards than Dre because I looked that up the other day.
Jordan Brown had a big catch this year. Is it Jordan Brown?
That is a great guess. Somebody asked me this the other day, and so that's what I guessed. It is Micah Hudson. He is your fourth leading receiver on the year with 123 yards. He beats out Jalen Conyers, who has 122, and Jordan Brown with 112, John Carlos with 100. Coy Aiken has 339, so kind of well ahead of him. But yeah, he is your fourth leading receiver on the year with only 8 receptions. So leads the team in yards per reception as a receiver.
Maybe he should play more then.
No.
He needs to prove his worth on special teams first, like Dre McCray, before he can get on the field.
You're exactly right.
I need to see a couple 15-yard penalties and muffed punt.
I need to see a muffed punt first. Hey, to Micah, I mean, Josh Kelly has had some muffed punts too, man. No one's safe in that position right now. Throw Micah out there. Let's see what he can do. I'm down.
Can't get any worse, right?
They can't get worse. So, well, boys, that was a lot of fun. I'll be praying for all of us and our. I'll be praying for this episode and our game on Saturday because after tonight, man, who knows? I don't know if we'll be back on Monday. We'll have to find out. So, no, it was a ton of fun, man. I enjoyed doing this. And you can follow us on our Linktree, find all of our socials there. And then, like we mentioned, feel free to check us out on YouTube and like and subscribe below as well. So for Conrad, Zyler, and Clayton, I'm Brennan. We hope you guys have a great weekend. Cheer on the Red Raiders, and we will be back on Monday to react to a Texas Tech win. So, gentlemen,
there you go.
Wreck 'em. We'll see you Monday.